Why do we need to deliver software frequently? And what are the challenges that we face? Welcome to Scrum Positive. This is Vinod Narayan. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to look at the third Agile Principle and address the question of the challenges that we face when we try to deliver working software more frequently. I'll read the principle first. Deliver working software frequently from a couple of weeks to a couple of months with a preference to the shorter timescale. Now, you might know that these principles were written about 20 years, 2 decades ago. And over time, in the last 2 decades, many companies have implemented Agile. I think a majority of companies or software companies, software teams do Scrum. Still, some do it 1 week release cycles, some do 1 month release cycles. Some teams do Scrum, they do stand up, all those ceremonies, but they don't deliver working software at the end of the sprint, and they have a release cycle that might be once in a quarter or once in a month or something like that. Though they would follow a 2 week sprint. I think 2 week sprint are more common. But still, this whole concept that at the end of the sprint, the whole idea of having a sprint is that at the end of it, you have workable software that is production ready, right? And there are so many challenges people go through trying to do that. And we can't go through every challenges. We can over a period of time, but not in this video. I want to read out or I want to let you know about one question that came up in my last video. And the question was by someone who said that there is a user and the user has a change in requirement. And the product owner or product manager is finding it difficult to convince the user about this change or have that negotiation because there's a lot of technical aspects to it. There's a technical feasibility part. And if I understand correct, probably there is a pressure on the product owner to do all those communication with the user, but the product owner is probably not able to take the technical handle of the whole thing. This is possible. While I've seen product owners who are very technical, who kind of understand it and who could basically have a conversation with the technical lead and the team and kind of use that knowledge to go ahead and convince the user or negotiate with the user and come up with what is a better model and everything. And as in any roles, Scrum Masters, product owners, developers, you have people with different skills, right? Some people have that technical skill, some people don't have that technical skill, and they're just building it. I would say that the product owner should try to build the technical skills needed to understand technical feasibility, understand architecture, understand how the approach is, and kind of in a business, convert it into a business conversation with the user and convince the user, negotiate the user, and come up with a better way of using the product. Now, in cases where that's not there, obviously this is a team. You should not consider product owner as someone outside the team. The product owner is also part of the team because fundamentally the product owner, the Scrum Master, the team, everyone, you all have the goal to deliver working software frequently. If it's within the sprint, end of the sprint, do that. So I think we all should be supporting each other in this process where I should support someone if someone doesn't have the skill that I might possess. And rather than saying that here on any conversation with the user should be done by the technical lead. Now some people, and I've seen that in organizations, like if I go ahead and help someone one time, it kind of becomes my responsibility and role to do that in the future as well. So that's something that we need to kind of be cognizant about people's. I can do anything to help anyone, even if it's not my role, if I'm requested to, but that doesn't mean that once I help, it becomes my role. I want to make sure that what is the other person doing to ensure that they're going to be able to less and less rely on me as they move forward. So this is how teams work. I wanted to say that because in delivering a software at the end of the sprint, one of the most important thing is the sprint backlog. What are you committing to? Now, if you don't have a proper product backlog, which you can you which where each line item has a business value, then you can't even prioritize what needs to be done in this sprint versus the next sprint. Now, once you have the product backlog and you have a prioritized product backlog, if you have not done a proper planning, if you have not estimated, if you have not figured out how you're going to do the work and you enter into the sprint, chances are very less that you're going to be able to complete and create workable software at the end of it. So it is not easy. The Scrum framework as such is very simple to understand. But when you start implementing, since it's a very lightweight framework, every team needs to start adapting to it. Not just the team and the extended team and the organization, everyone needs to get adapted to it. So I think a sprint goal is a great way to go through it. So what is a sprint goal? And I want to touch on sprint goals also as well, because I think as we talk about principles, some of these things really matter a lot. If you have a sprint goal, it tells you that this is what you want to achieve in the sprint. Now, so sprint goal should tell you that the workable software that you're going to deliver at the end of the sprint adds this value. Many times, there are a lot of people doing Scrum, a lot of people able to achieve a lot of things. But if you ask people, are you delivering workable software at the end of the sprint? You can see and you can hear a lot of no answers. And that is because sometimes it might not be possible because of the nature of the work. There might be a lot of, you're at a stage within the product cycle where everything is still in an exploratory mode, which means that you're not really started building the product. You're still trying to explore things. I've seen situations where instead of real software development activity, you have a lot of spikes going in because you don't really know what needs to be done unless you put some effort into doing that. Spikes are stories where you kind of do an investigative kind of an approach to something that needs to be potentially done in the future. So always talk about business value. Always know what business value is to be achieved. So imagine that at the end of the sprint, you're creating a workable software. That means that at the end of the sprint, you're creating a business value, because if it's a workable software, if it's a productionable workable software that you're going to release at the end of the sprint, that means that it is going to add business value to the entire product, right? Many times that discussion doesn't happen because either the business value conversation has not happened up the chain. We have not defined the business value of each of the story. The stories have not broken down into such a state that we can define a business value. There has not been enough conversations to how to get this thing done. What is the approach that we're going to take? How are we going to technically approach that particular piece of work? So all these things that should have been done before the sprint kind of starts getting done during the sprint. Because when you do a lot of this pre-work, that is pre-coding work, which is this planning and estimation and what needs to be done and architecture and all, a lot of times people want to just go ahead and start building it before doing all this work. And when you do that, whatever you build at the end of the time box, which is the end of the sprint, it won't be in a stage in which it can be. There'll be bugs, there'll be issues, it might not pass the tests that is needed to make it productionable. So I think there's a lot of factors to it. We'll get to it as we move forward. But what I want to do is that when I take a principle, I want to probably also address some questions that might come as well. You guys take care. I'll see you all next week. If you have any questions, put your questions over here. That will help me to steer the principles videos as I move forward. Thank you.